I feel like most of us can agree that the Super Mario Bros. Movie was a pretty enjoyable movie overall. Regardless of whatever issues I have with the film's script as well as the many areas I think it could have been far better, there was clearly a lot of love and care poured into nearly every aspect of it, minus the script. And the absolutely insane box office success the movie has seen over the past month shows us that Nintendo and Illumination are only just getting started with making films together. Point is, if you're a huge Mario fan, then you're 100% going to get a kick out of this movie. But we're not here today to review the film, I already did that in a previous video. Rather, I'd like to use this video as a way to touch on an aspect that took up a decent amount of the previous video, but has seemed to have only gotten worse after the film has been out for some time now. That being the incredibly toxic discussions that are surrounding this film, the enforcing of toxic positivity from people who have pretty much tied their own identity to this film, and how a bunch of other contributing factors have led to this film being completely absolved of any criticism thrown towards it by a bunch of whiny, insecure bottom feeders. I'm not going to hold back for this video because even though I'm going into this with a level head, the reactions to this film across the board have been embarrassing, resulting in internet dogpiles towards anyone who speaks ill of the movie or tries to have a rational discussion about not liking it, fundamentally misunderstanding how criticism works, hypocritically defending their enjoyment of the film because it's a dumb kids movie, and actively silencing people who express the slightest disagreement with their personal experience. Now, this is all crazy, right? Like, easily the second craziest thing I've witnessed over the past month. The craziest thing being that this video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. Or is it? Is Raid even real? Because if you think about it, if I told you all about its insane collection of over 700 unique champions, a super detailed and tactical RPG battle system, incredible graphics, and intense combination of PvE and PvP content, you'd probably assume it was too good for your 24/7 Twitter scroller to handle.
Hey, I resent that.
But luckily for you, Raid has it all and can be played for free on iOS and Android devices. Raid is a cut above most other mobile games. You can play it casually, lounging in your room as you procrastinate, or you can take it a bit more seriously and compete with others. Featuring a vast array of giant boss battles, immensely satisfying PvP gameplay, and an impressively fleshed out storyline. I mean, when was the last time you saw a mobile game with an honest-to-god lore section? All of this and more has clearly struck a chord with its core player base, with over 80 million players from across the world and still growing to this day. And with a seemingly endless amount of new content coming with new champions and new game-changing updates every single month, there's no better time to join in than now. And if you download Raid using the links below, copy your in-game player ID, and then head over to egghunt.plarium.com from April 14th to May 15th, you can join in on Raid's official egg hunt as you hug for those elusive dragon eggs. Enter your player ID and journey through the flaming portal for an exciting AR adventure, and if you find a hidden egg, you'll have the chance to win spectacular in-game items, a legendary champion, or even some Amazon gift cards. With all of this and more coming to Raid, there's no better time to join in than now. Use my link in the description to get some amazing bonuses like the epic champion Talia from the Sacred Order faction, as well as 200,000 silver, energy refills, an epic skill tome, and a 1-day XP booster. Once you're in and crushing enemies, come find me under the name Cartoonshi, and if you're fast enough, you can join my clan. So just click my link in the description and I'll see you on the battlefield. Now, as you're probably aware, the Super Mario Bros. Movie is chock full of references to just about every part of Mario's history from the past 40 years, and this is something that seems to alienate people outside of the film's target demographic. That obviously being fans of the Mario franchise. Despite this, the references are lovingly done, even if they do make up a majority of the film's actual substance as it hops from set piece to set piece, and I'm not going to deny that it's cool to see all of these iconic aspects of the games on the big screen, rendered with absolutely gorgeous visuals. Again, if you're a Mario fan, you're going to be the one getting the most enjoyment out of this movie. But, just because the movie is aiming to be a highlight reel of references for Mario fans, that doesn't mean it's impossible to critique the film for being shallow and for not being able to connect with it if you're not a Mario fan. At the end of the day, the Super Mario Bros. Movie is a movie, a medium that excels in telling stories that people should be able to connect with beyond a surface level. And this isn't me advocating for Martin Scorsese tier writing, it's an understandable fact that people who go into this film expecting an actual film are not going to have the same experience as you and will probably dislike it. Not saying it's impossible for people to like the film and be unfamiliar with Mario, but if you were genuinely shocked that professional critics didn't care for the references and properly address the film's utter lack of an actual plot and fleshed out characters, you know, things that movies traditionally have, then I'm not sure what you were expecting. There's always going to be some underlying bias in every moviegoer that lights up when a movie they were excited to see gets positive reviews. It's a cool feeling to like and appreciate something and see that thousands of other people share your exact same feelings. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was a film that I was happy to see positive reviews for, given that Marvel has been choking on its own farts for the the past few years, but even if the film was only received well by 40% of critics, it's not going to ruin my day or cause me to get upset. If you're so insecure about the fact that you like the film that was poorly received by critics, so much so that you need to reaffirm that the critics are wrong every time you bring it up in a discussion, you need to stop. I've seen some truly psychotic claims coming from fans of this movie, often parading around the words agenda and Disney in order to explain why the film wasn't well received. I'm still struggling to accept that we live in an era where people's anger is so easily manipulated that they'll unironically go around saying that Illumination didn't buy off their critics like Disney does, or the movie isn't therefore critics don't like, or critics only like Disney products. Yeah, you go, guy. What a true statement that couldn't possibly be proven wrong without a minute of Google searching. You f***ing lemmings. The reason the Super Mario Bros. Movie was not received well by professional critics is because reviewing movies based on their expectations of movies they've seen in the past is their job. And you're not comparing Mario to Coppola or Spielberg, simply comparing it to other family-friendly animated movies shows the film has problems that should be acknowledged. The Mario movie, objectively, has a paper-thin story. The story beats are predictable, the characters do not develop, the story is taped together by a collection of cool set pieces that they constantly jump to. You can acknowledge that the movie has these issues and still enjoy it, without getting upset that critics wanted there to be a better story. That's exactly what I did. Yes, Mario as a franchise is not known for offering much in terms of storytelling, that's not a problem with the Mario video games, but it is 100% a problem for a movie. Just because the film is aware of its lack of a decent plot does not make it exempt from criticism. You can still include all of the cool references and set pieces and cool looking action scenes, Jack Black singing the Peaches song, you can keep all of that. All of this can be included in a film that has a far better story. People aren't stupid for wanting the Mario movie to have a good story, that is a bare minimum expectation for a feature-length film. It doesn't have to be something deep, it can still be a fun adventure story. As it stands, the film's story is incredibly basic and doesn't add its own spin on any of the cliches it uses. You can acknowledge this and enjoy the film, being content with your own experience with it without having to attack other people for not seeing eye to eye with you. This is why I said that the Sonic movies had better stories than the Mario movie, because while they aren't revolutionary and are still simple films, they tell coherent and heartfelt stories where the characters actually develop. If you combine the heartfelt storytelling of the Sonic movies with the video game accuracy of the Mario movie, you'd have a substantially better film without having to sacrifice the references that already make it enjoyable. Of course, I'm saying all of this knowing full well there are people already rushing to the comments, ignoring what I'm saying, and are only reaffirming that my assessment of their tantrums is correct. This is because we've reached a level of gaslighting where people unironically believe that the Mario movie is a perfect animated movie, and are actively perpetuating a cycle of toxic positivity. For those of you who have yet to break free from your delusions, toxic positivity is when you feel pressure to only display positive emotions and actively block out any negative ones, and it is everywhere when it comes to online discussion, often a result of people being in complete denial about any issues that have been pointed out by someone, specifically towards a thing that someone likes or is excited to see. I've been in the cartoon community long enough to recognize when someone tries forcing you to see things in the same perspective that they have, invalidating your own experience with a piece of art because they can't handle it when other living, breathing, thinking human beings have a completely different response to something. If you ever have someone on the internet telling you to shut up after you criticize something, then backing up their reasoning with, this thing is great and you're stupid, that's a prime example of toxic positivity. It manifests in other ways too, like caring way too much about what professional critics think about a formulaic Illumination movie wearing a Mario skin, throwing an angry fit over them not seeing eye to eye with you, despite you not having seen the movie yet, and then saying, who cares what those critics think, I'm gonna have my own experience, meanwhile still coping and seething every time someone dislikes the film. Like, don't get me wrong, there are some terrible reviews in the Mario movie out there that just flat out get stuff wrong.
Why could Mario turn into a cat? I guess, like, if you're into furries?
The f are you talking about?
But that only makes a very small minority of the people who have reviewed the film. At the end of the day, the only experience that should matter to you is your own. And if you find someone who shares the same thoughts as you, then more power to you. But you can't have it both ways where you're stuck in a Penrosian loop of sophisticated molding because a grown adult judged the film in comparison to other family-friendly films that are far better and decided that it was mediocre. People are so quick to sing this movie's praises, how it's the best video game adaptation of all time. Not true, by the way, but whatever. How funny it is, how fun the action scenes are, praising the attention to detail and all of the cool references, and genuinely attaching themselves to the film and treating it like any other film or TV show is treated across the internet. But ooh, when some When Troublemaker gives the Mario movie a 5 out of 10, that's when the gates of hell open and suddenly that person is treated like a blob of scum on the pavement. It's a hilarious double standard, where people are completely content with liking and praising this kid's film, and then suddenly when critique is thrown into the equation, people are apparently thinking too much about it and it isn't that deep, or that the movie isn't deserving of such a critique, so on and so forth, because it's a kid's movie. Ignore how we're attaching ourselves to this simple kid's movie, you're the weirdo here. Deploy the reaction video.
That is cinema.
If you're allowed to love a kid's movie as an adult, you're allowed to dislike it too. Either they're both allowed or none are allowed. A lot of animation is cinema people like to constantly reaffirm that animation is indeed cinema, just so they can cover up their insecurities of being a grown adult and enjoying cartoons. Yes, animation is indeed cinema. It should be respected on the same level of artistry as live action content. It is not a genre, we all agree on this. And yet a lot of these same people will drone on and on about how something is intended to be for children, therefore it's impossible or unfair to criticize it or hold it up to the same standards as other pieces of art. If you're an adult and you like cartoons, just own it. Stop hiding behind a phrase that is used as a way to legitimize a medium that has been long disrespected in the film industry just because you're afraid people will make fun of you for watching the Paw Patrol movie. I'm getting slightly sidetracked. There are hundreds of incredible movies, some of which are among some of my favorite movies ever made, that are targeted towards kids, but are written well enough to the point where they can be enjoyed and appreciated by adults. It is not a stretch to say that the Mario movie could have had a much more enjoyable and substantive plot, and it's extra insulting to imply that just because it's a kids film that kids should be given mediocre stories. People are not stupid for wanting a better movie than what we got. In fact, a lot of critics who disliked the film overall acknowledged the many areas that were good that people use as reasons for why they liked the film. The animation is fantastic, the references are nostalgic and fun, the action scenes are fun, the sound design is great. If you're a Mario fan, you will enjoy it. Critics aren't blind to what makes the Mario movie enjoyable for me and you. Most seem to acknowledge what works. They just wish that all of the good stuff was supported by a much better story, actual fleshed out characters, etc. Because there are several moments in the film that could have had these genuinely interesting character moments, but instead opt for some filler dialogue before hopping to the next scene. As I mentioned in the first video, there is a scene with Mario and Peach in the Fireflower field where Peach talks about her childhood and how she originally came from Earth, giving her and Mario some grounds to relate to each other. It's an interesting plot point that is not brought up in any of the games. It's cool, but nothing actually comes from it. You could have literally kept the movie the exact same, but could have given Peach a genuine arc or explored Mario and Peach's relationship a tiny bit more. There's a scene towards the third act where Mario and Donkey Kong are trapped inside of a moray eel, and it's considerably slower paced compared to other scenes, where Mario and Donkey Kong learn about how much they want the respect of their fathers while still not being able to get along. I like that they don't suddenly learn to get along, but the scene very quickly cuts to them escaping before anything can come of DK's angry line about not wanting to be known as a smash monkey. That's an entire character moment just waiting to be tapped into, where the two could grow a deeper understanding of one another, but it's just never brought up again. I didn't mean to turn this part of the video into an extra critique of the film, but there are several obvious areas where the story just feels unfinished, like they tried actually establishing a character arc only to drop it. That's the stuff that people want more of without subtracting from the film's charming references. That's what we want more of. If people could just understand where a lot of criticism is coming from without letting it interfere with their enjoyment of the film, instead of leaping at every opportunity to defend the sacred nature of the Nintendo brand just because it didn't get a perfect score, conversations about this dumb, fun kids film would be considerably more tolerable. Recently, Your Movie Sucks did a review of the Mario movie that was incredibly critical of the reactions people had towards differing opinions of the film, choosing to get rightfully upset at how immature a lot of the discussion is and how it's led to a ton of harassment and dogpiling from devoted stands of the film. While I do disagree with a number of things in the video, such as Adam's complaint about the movie looking over animated, I 100% agree with him when it comes to pointing out the hypocrisy and childish arguments that people online are having about the film, with thousands of people getting angry and whiny towards people with vastly different thoughts on the movie. Adam was harsh, but he was 100% right, as shown by the fact that Twitter absolutely lost their over him comparing the film to Friedberg and Seltzer, an admittedly harsh critique but still his own thoughts, and proceeding to cry like children over the fact that he said something harsh about the film, instead of just rationally disagreeing with him and moving on with their day, not to mention blatantly cutting off the parts where he's rational with what he's saying in order to paint his critiques in a negative light, actively misconstruing his critiques and then doing the thing the cartoon community is notorious for doing by demonizing the person in general and crusading against them, treating them like absolute garbage and acting as if they're a bad person because their brains cannot comprehend that someone is critical of the Super Mario Bros. Movie. It is not enough for people to have their own positive experience with the Mario movie. They need everyone else else on the planet to recognize its cinematic brilliance, or else they're considered a scumbag. I love this planet. You are grown adults, hopefully. Stop running to reviewers out of a need to validate your opinions on a piece of art. They are human beings with their own independent thoughts. Their job is to review films from their own perspective. Stop treating your opinions like they need to be validated and stop acting like a baby. People are so blindly positive towards this movie that back in my first video about it, the video where I say, yeah, the movie is pretty fun, go watch it, but here's some issues and here's why some of you need to chill out, I got a startling amount of comments acting like what I was saying was somehow in agreement with their insane takes on criticism and the critics who didn't like the movie, because they couldn't be bothered to watch far enough into the video to see where I actually criticize this exact kind of behavior. How the f are these people real? How are you over the age of 18 and don't understand how Rotten Tomatoes works? This percentage does not mean anything, it just shows how many professional critics actually like the film. The importance placed on it is not the website's fault, it's an issue of Hollywood at large. And even if you say you don't care about it, why are you bringing it up and complaining about it? Chill out and grow up. God. And if you really need to be validated with liking the Mario movie, find people that agree with you, talk to them, discuss the movie with them, what you liked, what you disliked, validate yourselves that way so that you aren't exposing yourself to mild criticism that you are not emotionally prepared to handle, which leads to you attacking people over the internet or due to them not sharing your exact thoughts. This exact same song and dance happens with everything in the history of ever. Whenever people say that critics don't matter, it's only ever because something they were excited for got negative reviews, whereas if something was positively reviewed and they instead go on to celebrate. Obviously, if something you're excited for is received well, you're gonna feel good about it. I brought up Guardians 3 earlier because I was wary of possibly not liking the film due to how aggressively mid Marvel has been in recent years and was pleasantly surprised that most people liked it. But I'm not gonna act like it would have killed me if this didn't happen. I wouldn't immediately rush to say the critics are wrong. If you are a rational human being, the thoughts and opinions of other people that pertain to a piece of art should not affect you. You can call out bad criticism when it happens, but this is ridiculous. I'm getting to the point of repeating myself, but I honestly feel the need to, given that last time people just didn't listen. Let people criticize the Mario movie. The entire point of criticism is to hopefully spark improvements in the next product. That is why critics are so harsh on the film's plot, because it's too basic and lacks anything that makes it stand out, even if that's the intention. It doesn't stop the film from being criticized in the hopes that the next one is better. It's bad on purpose is not the brilliant defense that you think it is. The funniest thing about all of this is that Despicable Me 1, Illumination's first ever film, features a genuinely entertaining plot with a heart and characters that develop. Despicable Me is the polar opposite of deep, but when Illumination's first movie has a more emotionally engaging story and characters than the Mario movie, I think it's acceptable to give some criticism. By the way, Despicable Me 1 is genuinely worth watching, like it's honestly a good movie with an alright story, and it's pretty upsetting that the Minions had to taint the franchise's reputation from 2 onwards. Lastly, I wanted to cover the whole agenda thing I brought up earlier. As soon as the film started making bank, anti-SJW grifters were very quick to jump on the film as they're fueled by controversy, and controversy generates a lot of revenue. Video after video calling the film a huge dunk against Disney and that the film is somehow anti with nothing in it, and that it crossing $1 billion at the box office is humiliating for Disney, and that Disney is coping and seething and molding over the Mario movie's success, and that Hollywood as a whole is yeah, this is ridiculous, isn't it? Like, when you say these words out loud, it makes literally no sense. These people are grifters. Their whole purpose is to appeal to people's politics and stir up outrage. All they do is try to appeal to their sheep audience, and then when the tides shift and something ends up doing well, they immediately walk back what they were talking about. The number of people who flipped out over Princess Peach not being a damsel in distress for this film, instead having a more active role in the story akin to the Nintendo Power comics, being far more competent and actually being capable of defending herself, etc, etc. Like, a lot of these same people were very quick to hop on and maul the Mario movie for even daring to do that, claiming it's probably going to be a disaster or whatever. Then when the movie released and was dominating the box office, everyone switched up their attitude and were very quick to call the film anti. The film is neither nor anti. God, I hate the word so much. Open a fucking thesaurus, you. These people are not genuine. They are trying to farm outrage, and they have poisoned so much of the discussion surrounding the film that it genuinely makes me feel ill. Funniest thing about this is that Bob Iger actually congratulated the movie's success a few days ago, and I'm not one to believe corporate slop, but be for real for a second, Disney isn't threatened by other movies being successful at the box office. I hate Disney with a burning passion, believe me, but I'm not gonna go under just because the funny Bing Bing Wahoo man is dominating the box office right now. Overall, I felt this video was necessary to make because the discourse surrounding this movie keeps getting getting progressively more insane. And as much as I enjoyed the film as a long-time Nintendo fan and I highly recommend it to other Mario fans, seeing so many people be consumed by toxic positivity that they'll demonize anyone who has anything vaguely negative to say about the movie and will constantly engage in pointless arguments that go nowhere is giving me secondhand embarrassment. A lot of things in the Mario movie are common Illumination things that people were ready to tear apart before we got the first trailer. And then when we got the first trailer, it just put everyone in this weird trance and all critical analysis of the film just evaporated. Now you've got people defending stuff like Illumination's obnoxious pop song choices because it's a reference to the 80s or something like that, and I'm sorry, but my brain just can't handle that level of blind praise. If you enjoyed the movie, more power to you, but for a lot of you that are still mad about the thoughts of total strangers, seek help.